who's actually going to get the most out of a full-blown 5.1 home theater system, and who would be better off saving the cash for a simpler soundbar. If you're sitting on the fence because you're not sure whether the Klipsch Reference 5.1 bundle will fill your living room without breaking the bank, you're not alone. Many first-time home theater buyers worry about ending up with a setup that either sounds amazing on paper but falls flat in a real-world living space, or a collection of speakers that demands a professional-grade receiver they don't already own. The good news is that you can actually picture how this system will sit in your room before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the basics of the package. 2 floor-standing R26FA speakers, 2 bookshelf R41M units, a rear channel R25C, and the R12SW subwoofer. On the surface it reads like a lot of hardware, but each piece was engineered for a purpose, and that purpose matters when you think about everyday use. The floor-standers are the workhorses for front left and right channels, delivering that classic Klipsch punch thanks to the Copper-Spun IMG woofers. The bookshelves are compact enough to sit on a TV console or wall mount, yet they still carry the Tractrix horn technology that helps spread mid-range detail across a wider area, useful when you're watching a dialogue-heavy drama from the couch. The rear channel is a dedicated side filler that keeps the surround field tight without having to angle a full-size speaker toward the listening position. Finally, the sub handles the low-end rumble, and because it's powered by a high-efficiency digital amplifier, it can hit deep bass without demanding a massive power supply. Now, the first thing most buyers ask is whether they'll actually need a receiver that can drive 6 channels plus Dolby Atmos. The answer is yes. You'll need a fairly recent AV receiver that supports at least 5.1 plus Atmos height channels, otherwise you won't be able to take full advantage of the built-in integration. That's a hidden cost that trips up people who think the speaker bundle is the only purchase. If you already have a receiver that can handle a 5.1/Atmos setup, you're in the clear. If you don't, you'll have to budget an extra $200, $400 for a decent unit. Assuming you've got the right brain, how does the system behave day to day? I've seen the R26FAs placed on either side of a 70-inch TV, angled slightly inward, and the soundstage they create feels almost three-dimensional. When a blockbuster opens with a low-frequency explosion, the sub's Copper-Spun driver pushes that impact through the floor, and the high-efficiency amp reproduces it without distortion. Because the woofers are Copper-Spun, they respond quickly, meaning you don't get that mushy boom that can mask on-screen action. In practice, that translates to clearer dialogue during fast-paced scenes and a tighter bass feel when you're watching a concert film. One of the most practical strengths of the system is the flexibility of the R41M bookshelf speakers. I've watched users mount them on a low shelf, place them on a media console, or even mount them on a wall a few feet above ear level. Their Tractrix horns make them forgiving of placement. You won't get an immediate hole in the sound if you can't line them up perfectly with the listening spot. That kind of tolerance is a real time saver for anyone who doesn't want to spend a weekend tweaking angles and measuring SPL levels. The linear travel suspension, LTS, tweeters also keep the highs crisp even at higher volumes, so you won't be squinting at a TV screen during an action sequence because the treble is being overdriven. On the flip side, the size of the floor-standing speakers can be a drawback in tighter spaces. The R26FA stands about 3.5 feet tall, and while the cabinet is relatively narrow, you still need a clear path from the floor to the speaker front to avoid unwanted reflections. In an apartment with a low ceiling or a short wall run, you might find yourself shuffling furniture just to make room. The subwoofer, while powerful, can also be overkill for a modestly sized room. If your square footage is under 300, you may end up with bass that feels a bit aggressive, and you'll have to dial the low frequency level down in the receiver's calibration menu. That's not a deal breaker, but it's something you need to know before you set the price tag in your mind. So, who should actually click by now? If you have a dedicated media room or a living room that can comfortably accommodate 2 floor-standing speakers and a sub, and you already own or plan to purchase a receiver with Atmos support, this bundle is a solid step up from a generic TV speaker set. It's especially compelling for movie buffs who crave an immersive surround feel that can keep up with modern sound mixes. The integration of Dolby Atmos means you'll hear height cues like a helicopter flying overhead without having to add separate upward-firing modules, because the system's design